All right, today we are talking with Sean Light. Sean is an amazing fitness business coach, former NBA strength and conditioning coach, and as well as somebody who thinks they are better than me at the office trivia. I'm very lucky to be talking with you today, Sean.
Dude, we can switch this up right now and do all office trivia. I will absolutely decimate you.
Maybe another time.
Okay, the next time we get on a podcast, we'll have some prepared questions.
All right, deal. So Sean, first things first, how did you get into the fitness industry in the first place?
Yep. So it was a natural progression from my degree in print journalism, where I was a college basketball player, and I was literally picking the easiest possible major that I could find because I was a Joe Cool basketball player. I didn't have to go to class. I literally thought I was going to the NBA, and I ended up going to the NBA, just not as a player. Which I have a joke I always drop at seminars about that. But anyway, yeah. So I just honestly. I actually, after I was a journalism major, I interned at a newspaper. If you actually Google me, I have newspaper articles that I wrote. It's from the New Haven Register in Connecticut. And then I was a substitute history teacher for a year. And that was just an absolute nightmare. And I just kind of used it as a default at the end. Like I was like, I don't really know what else to do. I think my strength coach from college, he seemed to have fun. I mean, wear sweatpants to work every day. So I decided to just give it a shot. And I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. I thought like the CrossFit model was the game. It is not. No. But yeah, I just kind of stumbled into it weirdly like that.
I was a substitute teacher for a little while.
No way. Were you really?
Yep.
What level?
Just at my high school that I went to when I came home from college. I subbed for a couple months in between like college summer and high school summer.
Damn. Yeah, I wanted to be the cool sub, and I did it in a not great area, and so like I was like, I'm gonna be the cool sub. Like everyone's gonna be like, yo, Mr. Light. Like I love when Mr. Light comes, and I lost control of the class in 8 minutes. It was unbelievable.
And so how did you go from journalism degree and then NBA strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, man, what a ride. So, I think I always knew that, I wanted to be like, if I was going to do this, if I was going to be a strength coach, like I wanted to be at the highest level. I didn't know if it was going to be Major League Baseball or NFL or NBA, but I knew that my goal was to get to the highest level. Not interested in hockey. I don't know anything about hockey, yeah. But those other sports were just kind of the stuff I grew up watching, and I thought that would be really interesting. So I decided that the first thing that I should do was, find a job as close to that as I could. And minor league baseball was an obvious choice. It was, a lot of those jobs are entry level gigs. I made my first job, $23,500. It was a joke, but it was amazing at the time. So I just literally decided that, okay, minor league baseball entry level job, I should give that a shot. And one night at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, eating chicken fingers on my couch at home, I just emailed every single major league and minor league strength and conditioning coach, just asking for advice. And it oddly worked. Like I got on the phone with a lot of people, a lot of coaches. I interviewed with the Phillies, the Mets, and the Diamondbacks, and I actually got offered. The Phillies never called me back, but the Mets and the Diamondbacks both offered me a job, and I actually accepted the job with the Mets first. Believe it or not, there was like an argument about who was going to get me the journalism degree with no experience, who was going to get me. It must have been my sheer charisma on the phone. Eventually we landed back on Diamondbacks. I told Diamondbacks no 3 times before they made me an irresistible offer. And eventually even the Mets were like, dude, you got to take that. So I did. And I went over to the Diamondbacks, man. And I'm very fortunate and was like grateful for the luck to stumble upon it, because I didn't know. It was just an unbelievable organization. I mean, very, very progressive, very continuing education oriented. My first year there, I was actually embarrassed about how little I knew. I mean, I knew, somebody asked me where the biceps femoris was. I said, right, I gotcha, I know that one. It's right here on my arm. And like, I was so embarrassed that I didn't know anything, that I just was like really like aggressive with learning and continuing education and stuff like that. And then what I quickly came to realize was that nobody does anything in the fitness industry. Like 1% of the strength coaches actually try to be successful. And I knew me, I was just an aggressive guy, so I was going to do 10 times as much education as anybody, and I was going to network, which nobody does, 10 times harder than anybody. And that's what I did. I became an animal with PRI. I used it as my bachelor's degree. And I, like, probably at 2.5, 3 years, I'd start developing a reputation as like a really good PRI guy, just out of nowhere. And then my networking stuff started to pay off. And I eventually, man, it happened so fast. I got the interview with the Lakers. I was walking around a stadium, in minor league stadium in Mississippi, called Lakers. Like, literally, I'm sitting in like BP batting practice. I got a call like from LA. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was somebody from the Lakers asking me to interview. And I flew out like overnight, didn't tell anybody. I flew out overnight, put LAX airport, like changed into my suit right to the Lakers practice facility, and then flew back to Biloxi, Mississippi the day after. And none of the players that I was coaching knew. And eventually, a couple of days later, they called me up, said I had the job, and there was, man.
That's wicked cool. Just quick note for people listening: biceps femoris. That's not in the arm. That's on the femur. That's a hamstring muscle.
Unless you're from the Jersey Shore, it's always in the arm.
You're right. Do you mind sharing what the price difference between minor league baseball and the NBA salary difference?
Yeah. So I started my first year with the Diamondbacks with 23.5, and I think each year, I feel like the first year they gave me like a $500 bump. I never got above 30. I think my last year there I was making 29 in AA. And then my first year, have I ever told you what I made it with LA? No. What do you think?
I don't know, 40,000.
Okay, well, so it makes me feel better. I was at 60, which doesn't get you a whole lot out. It doesn't get you very far in Southern California, but
right.
I mean, for me, it had just over double what I was making. But it really varied from team to team, experience level. I think there was a guy who was making like, I know it's like making like 30 or something like that somewhere in the NBA. I forget where. It's weird, but yeah, that's how I went from 29 in my fourth year with the Diamondbacks to 60 with the Lakers.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And could you share some of those networking secrets that you did along that journey?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think here's kind of how it broke down for me. Was I was working in baseball, and my goal was like, it was very natural, like just go single A, double A, triple A, big leagues. But the closer I got up and really started observing it, I started realizing that the collective bargaining agreement for Major League Baseball actually did not allow inter-team communication. So like, in order for me to talk to the guy for the Yankees, they would have to like request permission and stuff like that, and it's not uncommon to be denied. So I was like, I'm not playing this game. I'm a guy. I'm like, I'm going to take control of the situation, and I'm going to be in charge of how this is going to shake out. So I was like, I'm going to set my sights on the NBA and do it from that angle. So what I did was I just started observing where people were coming from. certainly reaching out. I remember one time I talked to Naveen, who was at the time, he was the Wizards strength and conditioning coach. We were out in Jacksonville in AA. I was in the parking lot talking to him on the phone, couldn't hear anything he was saying, but trying to be as nice and networking, you know, the deal.
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of reaching out randomly on Twitter, you know, responding to people's stuff and sending out emails, kind of like I did in minor league baseball. But then when I started really getting aggressive, what I started doing was going to where NBA strength coaches were coming from. Like I saw a lot of them were coming from IFAST in Indianapolis. So I just went there. I was like, if Bill and Mike over there are producing NBA strength and conditioning coaches, I need to be a part of what's happening there. So I went there twice. I really tried to meet everybody, get to know everyone, and you know, mingle and all that stuff. Like I remember there was a guy in the city who I heard was like friends with the owner for the Grizzlies. I just showed up. That didn't work, but like that was kind of my deal. Was like, where can I draw the connections and then do it? Ironically, it kind of worked in my favor because I had been doing that for a long time, and I had somehow gotten. I reached out to Tim, who was the head strength coach for the Lakers, who eventually hired me, and I had reached out to him like a year plus before I ever got hired, and I was just like, hey, just wanted to connect, and he's like, like, let's get on a phone call, and I think he was being an asshole. He called me at like, he's like, once I get back from this road trip, I'll call you. And he called me at like 3:30 in the morning, and I had to like wake up for it. Wow. And I did it, but you know, I think he was maybe testing me or something, but because that's absurd. But yeah, I did it, and I think like that parlays itself into like, I already know this guy, like I have a little respect and admiration for him, so yeah, it works. So I'm just an aggressive guy, man. I just go for it.
Yeah. Back then, was it the Twitter DMs that people used instead of the Instagram DMs?
Man, gosh, Instagram. I don't even know. I think Twitter was like, for strength and conditioning, like Twitter has always been a thing, right? Like people really vibe out on strength and conditioning Twitter. I don't think it's as I don't think it's as strong on Instagram. I don't think I did anything on Instagram until post NBA. I think had to be all Twitter, probably a lot of email, and a big thing for me was showing up. Yeah. The big thing for me was going to seminars and like trying to like go out to lunch with people, which I had a lot of very uncomfortable lunches, but like a handful of them turned out to be very, very fruitful. And there's some of them I still keep in touch with to this day. And look, I knew it was a numbers game. Like I knew I was just gonna have to meet as many people as I could, and I was gonna have to be the guy making the relationship out of thin air because nobody else was going to do it. Yeah.
A couple of times you mentioned like courses, seminars, and continued education stuff. Are there any that you would say have stood out more than others? I know you mentioned PRI once.
Well, the greatest one I could think of off the top of my head is the Health First Strength and Conditioning seminar coming soon. I'm intimate in the creation process of that. I think everybody should sign up for that. Secondly, I think PRI has always been, you know, I think they're onto something pretty big, really breakthrough science there. I think that's the one that makes the most sense to me. You know, I've always been the believer of, you know, go down to the root cause of everything. So I think that they do that. And that I've always had a respect for that. I think the other thing from, you know, if we're going to talk, I think Pat Davidson has a great course, Rethinking the Big Patterns. I know he's a sharp dude, and I very much respect what he's done. But I think like kind of sneaky is massage therapy. I'm also a licensed massage therapist, which was definitely a reason why I was able to go to the NBA after 4 years. You know, was really able to talk. Funny story, man. Do you follow the NBA?
A little bit, not hard.
Okay. So when I was there, when I was interviewing for the Lakers, like I was kind of saying, like, I'm a massage therapist, like I can help out in the training room, which if someone's going to make your job easier, more than absolutely. So in the interview, I'm sitting here full suit. Mitch Kupchak, general manager for the Lakers, legend, right across the table interviewing me. Luke Walton, head coach for the Lakers, to my left, in a sleeveless backwards cap, eating a Chipotle bowl in the middle of my life-changing interview. And Mitch Kupchak grabs the paper and he looks at it. He's looking at my resume. He's dead silent in the room, really awkward. And he's looking at it. He goes, "You're a massage therapist?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I kid you not. All right, massage Luke's arm right now." And I was like, "What?" So I literally got up full suit. Luke was like, "Hell yeah." So he puts his arm out and I did some like ART biceps passes. And I didn't really like, because those going to be super painful. But I did them. I did a couple on there, and he loves it. I mean, who knows what I did, but that definitely hooked me up and was like a big, definite separator in the interview process. But so on to the question was, I think LMT, getting a massage therapy license, makes you wildly versatile inside the weight room. And I think if once you get it, you'd realize that there's no way you could do your job without it. Like there's so much benefit to you having that. You're a serious weapon in the weight room with an LMT, and that I'm very glad. I haven't touched anybody in years, but I still keep it up because I know how valuable it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you weren't at the NBA very long, right? It was about 2 years.
I was there for 1 season.
1 season, okay.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to tell the getting fired story if you don't want to, but what happened after the NBA?
Sure. Well, look, I think it's important to talk about getting fired. I'm not rattled by it at all. I think basically what happened was during my season with the Lakers, the general manager who hired me, he got fired. And I was actually in the middle of negotiating a contract extension. I was getting a 2-year deal. And right after he got fired, they brought in Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, who's still there. And as soon as that happened, like my contract negotiations went quiet, and I started getting nervous. I was like, "Oh, this isn't good." I didn't think I was going to get fired because it was so new, and like Luke was still there, and I thought that would be fine. But in Magic Johnson's opening press conference, he mentioned something about the strength and conditioning of the team not being good, and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't sit well with me." And I remember the last game at Staples Center, during my season there, Rob Pelinka was the GM. He was standing right outside the door of the locker room, and I'm walking out of the locker room to go to the court for warmups, and he's sitting there on his phone, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, Rob? How you doing?" And he looks up from his phone and he's like, "Hey, guy," and I was like, "Oh, you just know in that moment, you're just like, this is bad." And yeah, I ended up getting fired. I was at a sandwich shop here in New Jersey, and they called me up over the phone and asked me, and I made my buddy pay for the sandwich. I didn't have any money coming in. But look, I think the lesson there is when you take a job at that level, I wasn't surprised or upset by it. I mean, I was disappointed because I didn't feel like I really was able to get my feet wet even. But at that level, it's part of the deal. You accept that as the way that it goes. They ended up bringing in Gunnar Peterson, who was Kim Kardashian's trainer. I have my perspective on that, but I have no ill will or anything like that. Like, that's just the game at that level. And if I was Magic Johnson coming in, like if it's my head on the chopping block, I want to be in charge of, like, I want my guys in here so that it's like my deal. Right. And I respect that a lot. So that's how the transition happened. And then what was the second part of the question?
So what happened after the NBA, business wise?
Yep. So basically I had always intended to, like, even when I was in the NBA, like I was like plotting, like, when this is all over, I'm going to try to do weekend seminars for strength and conditioning coaches, kind of like PRI, like travel to the country, do 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, and then just make 20,000. I was always in the back of those rooms, like doing the math, like, damn, these guys are killing it right now. And so, like, that was my plan to do that. I love huge love public speaking. It's like my favorite thing in the world. So I was like, this is going to be perfect. Let's do this. And what I did was after I got fired, I came back here, and I remember it's literally exactly what I was doing. I was going to this place in downtown New York City, like by World Trade Center. There's this place called Brookfield Place. It's like a little mall. It's got a lot of cool stuff, and I could go there with books and like a notebook. And I was creating my first course, and I did that with. I was reading like a book a day. Like I was crushing, and then putting this course together. And then I went out to sell it the first time. Booked 2 facilities here in Manhattan, Chelsea Piers on 14th and Clay on 23rd. And I couldn't sell a damn ticket. And it was really embarrassing. I really thought I was, no joke, thought I was a big dog. I thought I was a big time, like coach. Like I was like, I got a lot of love on social media. Everyone's going to buy this thing. It's going to be easy. And boy, did I have a monster wake up call to what it means to run a business. And really ever since then, it's been a long haul trying to understand how to get somebody to take their credit card out of their pocket and actually pay you money.
Yeah. I understand the struggle there.
Don't we all, my friend?
But you also had like your own facility, or you were doing some type of PRI type practice after the MBA, right?
Yeah. I actually forgot about that. That was I stumbled upon. I don't even know. Man, it's been so long now. I don't even remember how that ended up getting started. I think most likely what happened was I got certified by PRI, like I became PR, I think I'm PRT. And by doing that, you're going their website. And my company, it was called 4A Health, was the number 4. So when they listed it on their website, I was up top, like was the only one that started with a number. So literally anybody in New York City who was going on that website, they'd call me first. And so I got a handful of calls, and I was a couple places that I went to. Yeah, that's what it was. And I was actually, wow, it's so funny. It's been so long, I totally forgot. And then I would like bounce around and do these PRI treatments with people, and I ended up opening up like a little spot in World Trade Center. To see them like in one central location. But I actually forgot, I was actually training one of my buddies when I first got fired. He set me up with a couple private clients, and I would go to their super rich apartments in New York City. One of the guys, he was on Park Avenue, 86th Street, 87th, I think. And I'd be down in their apartment building gym with celebrities. This is like, it's crazy. But one of those guys actually ended up being a huge business mentor of mine, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, I did the PRI stuff. I went to World Trade Center, and I was seeing people pretty regularly for PRI.
Mm-hmm. And you were making a decent amount of money with that, right? Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing all right. Like, I think I was getting a pretty decent client flow just through phone calls, and you know how it goes. You get them in there, and it always takes a couple sessions to get them going. And I think I was. Are you talking specifically about my overnight change of direction?
Kind of, yeah. But
Yeah.
also I feel like it would be useful for people to know like how much you can actually make doing something like that.
Yeah. So it's a great point, Ryan. When I first started, I think I was doing $150 per hour. I think a lot of it was, I felt like that was a lot of money, man. And I was like, all right, NBA strength coach. The place I had was super nice. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of like playing the game here. Like it looks the part. And I do think I'm worth that. I studied so much. Like I really intimately, I really know the human body super well.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I could get results, and somebody would come in and I could really deliver for them. And I did. And I would always get a lot of other PT. I'm not a PT, but I would get PTs, like people. I went to this person for a year, never got anywhere, so I'm coming to you. So I started thinking like, man, am I charging enough money here? And I remember one guy's patients I would always get, the guy charged $400 an hour. And I was like, I'm better than this person.
Right.
And then, one day, I don't know, I remember where I was when I made the decision, but I don't remember exactly how it came about. But I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm better than this guy. I'm better. I'm the best that I've seen. Like, I don't know anybody else in the whole city. I think at the time I was the only one certified in the entire city. And I started saying, like, look, I got a really nice place. I have a great background, a great resume. I'm getting results, and I'm in New York City, right? In New York City, everybody, like, the best of everything is in New York City. So I said, screw it. I'm just going to position myself as that. And overnight, literally snap of a finger, I went from $150 an hour to $500 an hour. And I required everyone to show up for 2 hours at a time. So nobody could show up to my office without paying me at least $1,000. And I know what everyone's thinking, like, holy shit, how can I do that? You do that by literally just doing it. And yes, people were rattled by that. A lot of people stopped coming. People got really, there were some people who was just out of their price range. But what I actually found was that a lot of them, specific to that practice, they go to anybody else you want. You're not going to get the result, right? Like, you go to any, like, PT, most of the time you're not going to get the result. I knew I was going to deliver the result, but what I also knew was that as soon as you turn me down as the $500 an hour minimum 2 guy, whoever you go to, in the back of your head, you're going to be like, this is second rate shit.
Right.
And I would say, of the people that could actually afford it and that were like, like, at least it wasn't going to, like, murder them, I think probably 70% of them eventually came through. And I got better results because I was $500 an hour. People thought I was better. People expected me to be the best in the world, and it just triggers different things neurologically. And yeah, man, I mean, it was wild the first time processing that payment. I was wild the first few times saying that to somebody, like, this is what it's going to cost. But look, for those of you out there who are thinking, like, I do not, that is just insane. There is a level of revenue and cash flow out there that you can't even imagine. If you're out there charging 50, 70, $100 for a session, you are, oh man, you're just dipping your pinky toe into this ocean of cash flow, truly.
And how long were you doing that before you switched to coaching coaches?
Yeah, honestly, I was doing that up until COVID.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I ended up canceling the rent at that place right around, I think right after, it must have been when COVID ended. I was training people. I was seeing seeing people only as they would call me through the list. Like, I wasn't actively trying to go find anybody, but I was also training 2 people, like, as one was kind of like PRI level fitness. It was just, so quick backstory. There's one of the guys I started working with right after I left that my buddy hooked me up with. He's founded his own hedge fund on Wall Street, and he has helped me with business like you wouldn't believe. Like, it's unfathomable how much he's helped me. So I just said, I'm never going to stop training this guy until he makes me, or a global pandemic gets in the way. And so I kept training him, and then somebody else kind of just kept rolling because it was right next to where I live. But once COVID hit, that was the last time I ever trained anybody.
Yeah. And you had your online education service for coaches and trainers, which transformed into now more focusing on the business side of things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I had a membership site, the 4A Health Club, where it's actually still active. I'm no longer accepting payments for it, but there's still people who have paid through the year, so it's still active, but you can't join it. The 4A Health Club had that, and it was just a membership website where people come on. It was a new course every single month, and yeah, we must have 30, 40 courses on there, and I think at first I was charging $19 a month, and then I did like a $199 for the year. Did that, and then I was doing, like, I still had like weekend seminars. I was just really getting that ball rolling once, right before COVID hit. So that put a dent in that. But so I was doing that, and then once COVID hit, what I was starting to realize, like especially once COVID hit, was uh, the real problem in the industry was not fitness or exercise science knowledge. I would go around. I remember I spoke at most equinoxes in the city. They would bring me in, and I would just speak for 10, 15 minutes, and afterwards I was talk to everybody, mingle. And what I found was that people were like interested. Like there was always a couple people that were like really fascinated with what I was saying, but almost everybody there was rattled about making sales, like really concerned about making a living in this field. I can't tell you how many times people talk to me like, I don't know if I'm going to be a personal trainer in 2 years. Nonetheless, go to your course. And I'm like, it really, what happened was when you do market research like that, what you're trying to uncover is what are the big problems in the industry in the customer's head, and then your product is supposed to solve that. What I found was that while exercise science was really nice, the problems people were facing was money and sales, and not knowing how to increase the lifetime value of a customer, or an acquisition cost, or a one-click upsell, or any of that. So nobody knew that, and I had gone through such painstaking effort to try to figure it out, that I was like, you know what, if I'm really going to help out the coaches, I have to like that's the thing they really need help with. They don't need help with learning why the HPA axis, the cortisol stop, the it keeps flowing when the stress inputs are on. Like they don't, it's helpful, but the thing that's keeping them up at night is that. So, and then when COVID hit, it was 0 to 100 on that. Like I was like, now's the time. Like everybody needs this. So I jumped in, man. I jumped headfirst into showing people how to monetize and showing people how this works. And I'm very grateful to say that there have been a lot of people. I mean, biggest joys in my career have been watching other people collect fat checks. It just feels really, there's nothing to me that feels better than somebody texting me saying, I just closed a $3,000 deal and I had never closed anything above $70 before that. That's incredible to me. And there's nothing more motivating to me than that.
And you feel like that is a fairly doable thing without like the type of knowledge that you had learned. You said you were at best of the best, but you don't necessarily need that.
No, I mean, it's irrelevant. My knowledge. I mean, if you look at it, anybody who's listening to this podcast is probably somebody who's like really into strength and conditioning and fitness and that stuff. And what I always say is that everybody in this fitness industry, probably everybody, knows more than enough information to become a multi-millionaire as a personal trainer. I mean, you look at the people on The Biggest Loser. They don't know anything about the HPA axis, and like the certifications, like you have to realize that an accountant or a plumber or somebody's going to sign up for you doesn't know the difference between a CSCS and NASM. They might be able to decipher an LMT, but they don't know anything, right? And nor should they. And what's really going to sell them is the catchy stuff. We all know the people on Instagram who are doing crazy, dangerous stuff. But those are the ones making the money. And we, as great strength coaches, we're like, screw this guy. Dude, he's terrible, man. You think CrossFit's training? Like, you're out of your damn mind. But like, somebody who's working down on Wall Street doesn't know. Like, they want it to be badass, man. They're gonna look jacked on the beach. And you have to play the game. Like if you want to make the money, you have to play the game. I always tell people, especially great strength coaches, when I was doing my 2-day exercise science course, the first thing I would always teach everybody is like the first phase of any training program, macro cycle, whatever you want to call it, is what I call the empathy period. Is you have to know where this person is coming from. If your job, which it is as a trainer, to get them from point A to point B, you kind of have to know why they came to you in the first place, and how can you play that game? How can you give them what they want to eventually give them what they need? And I had a lot of coaches that were saying, like my clients won't buy in. They don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like it. I'm like, well, you're not playing the game. You're trying to force this down their throat instead of playing the game. Like you gotta wheel them and deal them. I have a client right now who's like, I don't need to give away, free sessions because I'm a great strength coach. And I'm like, well, they don't know that. Like nobody knows that. You have to prove that. You have to sell them on that. Like it's like going to the bar and saying like, I don't need to approach any women because I'm super handsome, right? Like we all know that ain't the game unless you are like Brad Pitt or something, right? Like that's just not the game. You got to go, you got to wine them, and I got to buy them a couple of drinks. You got to make them laugh. You got to do all that stuff. And money and revenue is the same thing. You can't just sit on the sideline and bury your nose in a book and expect to make money because people are going to somehow read your blog post and you see that you use the word iliococcygeus and now they want to drop stacks on your desk. It doesn't work that way. You got to get in there and you got to play the game.
Yep, totally. And that was a really great big piece of advice, but do you have anything else to touch on for people who are like just starting out in the field? Any more advice?
Well, where to begin? Here's what I think. I think there's two pieces of advice that I think is really valuable. The first one is when you first get started, you're going to think things like, I'm a newbie. I shouldn't charge high prices because I'm just getting started. You're going to look around and you're going to copy, you're going to try to be like relatively similar to other people who are, comparable services. You can try to fit yourself in there. And you'll kind of say like, let me get the ball rolling. Let me get things going first before I, charge $500 an hour. And while I get that, that is the absolute wrong way to do this. There are just requirements to running a business and there are requirements to being successful. And I always say this, I think this is one of the most important lessons that I've learned is that in this game of business, when you become a business person, you have agreed to play by different rules. And to success, there are two roads. The one road is the road that most people travel, the one where they say, I'm not going to charge high prices yet. I'm going to get my feet wet. Let me not get crazy. Let me not be all Sean on you here. I'm going to, just figure this out slowly because I'm a newbie. And that road is riddled with struggle, hardship, and failure. It is the greatest teacher that is out there, but it is an inevitability of traveling down that road. On the other side, it is the side of saying like, screw it, Sean knows more than me. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to figure that out. It's the side of faith, and it's a straight shot to wherever it is that you want to go. But it's a scary road because it's the unknown and it's big leaps. It's big, giant quantum leaps. And that's scary to most people. It's way out of the box. It's way different. Your pricing is way different. Your offers are way different. What you do is way different. And that's scary to most people to do that. So they almost always opt for that other road where it's more normalized and it's going to bring back less criticism or make them less nervous. And what happens is that hardship, struggle, and failure will ultimately either make you quit altogether or will increase your desire or increase your willingness to go all in and do those things. I have taken that road and it sucks so much. But the failures have brought me over here. And even as I say this, it's inevitable. Like if you don't feel that, you'll still take this road over to the left because it's just not ingrained into who you are. The only thing that can ingrain it is failure, man. And so you'll take that. If you don't believe what I'm saying, if you don't trust fully what I'm saying, you will take that road on the left. You will struggle. It will be hard, and you'll either end up quitting or you'll come back over here a stronger, more willing entrepreneur. If you want to talk about help, overnight success, people that turn it around like that, it's the people that just say, screw it. This guy has figured something out that I don't know. And I'm just going to go down that road and trust him. And when they figure it out, that's when it works, man. It never works. It absolutely never works going on the other side.
Yeah. That's some amazing advice right there. I just have one more question, and it's totally off topic.
Okay.
How close were you to actually playing in the NBA?
Man, not close, man. Not close. I wasn't. I played Division I basketball. I was an okay player, man. I'll tell you this. This will be the answer. When my first day with the Lakers, like I was a little nervous about working in the NBA because I thought I'd be really jealous. Like if they messed up, I'd be like, oh, I could go out there and do that. And my first day, I remember watching Julius Randle. If you guys don't know him, he's on the Knicks. He's like 6'8", lefty out of Kentucky. He's like 6'8", 260, savage. And he's like running up and down the court like full speed. He like crosses somebody up at center court, and he's just like charging down the left side of the paint. Here comes our 7'1" Croatian rookie to friggin' block him at the rim. And Julius just comes up, he cocks it back, and he just crushes a dunk right on his face. And I remember being like, I am all set. Like, I can't do anything even close to that. I even went out and played a couple of times with the guys. They were so much better than me, dude. There was like, just, I mean, there was one guy I used to play. He no matter what I did, if I jumped on his back, he could dunk on me whenever he wanted. It was unbelievable. It was simply unbelievable. Those guys are not real humans, man. I thought I was closer when I got out of college than I was. And when I saw them in real life, I was not even in the remote vicinity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I probably just can't even like imagine what they are actually like, because I've never even been to D1 school, seen D1 athletes. So,
dude, it's not, I mean, it would be like me playing against like a sixth grader. Like, they're so much better than me, bro. Yeah.
That's cool.
There was one guy that would D me up. I couldn't even dribble. He would just take it from me.
Dang, that's crazy.
It was, man. It was nuts, dude. It was nuts. I'm a damn good basketball player, but that's just another level, dude.
Wow. Awesome, Sean. So if people want to find you, where do you think they could find you at?
Well, they can definitely find me on Instagram at Slight20, Slight20. You go on there, you see all sorts of fun stuff. I think if you're interested in learning a little bit more about generating revenue in the business side, go over to weightroomwealth.com. There's a whole host of stuff over there for you to wet your whistle and start. If you're interested in taking the easier road of faith and trusting me, do your due diligence first, research me and check it out. And weightroomwealth.com is a good place for you to get started there.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. This was great.
You got it.